Second only to a perfectly timed seam route, Jordan Love's quietest flex is this. He's turned himself into a quarterback who dares the Brett Favre flash without the Brett Favre fallout. That's a weird, important thing to say because every big play or bust signal caller invites the same skeptical chorus. Flashy equals reckless, and recklessness equals turnovers. Love is proving that narrative wrong, not with one headline game, but with sustained, low key excellence. 9 regular season games without an interception, 226 consecutive pass attempts. That's the kind of streak that puts skeptics on mute. Let's start with the obvious volume and sample. We're not talking about some backyard highlight reel. Since the pick he threw on November 17 last season, Love has gone 226 passes without handing one over. Through 2 games in 2025, he's 35 of 53 for 480 yards and 4 touchdowns, a 120.0 passer rating. Those are elite numbers. They come with nuance, a few near misses, a would-be pick dropped, a pick six that was negated by penalty, but the streak survives even when the chaos of NFL football bumps up against him. That matters more than a single perfect box score. Why this matters is not just the raw stat. Aaron Rodgers' all-time run of 402 attempts without an interception is a fantasy standard of precision, anticipation, and risk control. Love will probably never be Rodgers in style because his game includes those lunging, improvisational plays that create highlight reel chaos. But what he's doing now is the functional equivalent of Rodgers' great streaks, minimizing damage while still pursuing upside. In short, he's learned to pick his spots. That learning shows up in 3 connected ways: decision-making, pocket management, and situational restraint. Decision-making first. Love used to be a gambler, the kind of guy who throws into tight windows because he saw potential and trusted his arm. That's a trait you can't teach easily. It's what makes him exciting. What's shifted is the calibration. He's still willing to throw deep and risk a turnover, but he's more willing to take a sack, throw the ball away, or settle for a safer outlet when nothing's there. You saw it Friday night. Instead of forcing a low percentage throw into tight coverage in the red zone, he lived to fight another play. He's converting high-risk instincts into timed aggression. That's an evolution from gambler to calculated threat. Pocket management is the other half of the story. It's not glamorous, but it's how great QBs extend plays without creating turnovers. Love has cleaned up his footwork and release mechanics enough that he buys himself time and keeps the ball off the ground while avoiding desperate heaves into traffic. When the line collapses, he's using the I formation of his eyes: reset, step, throw, or step out. The result, plays that used to end in hurried interceptions now end in hard-earned completions or conservative throwaways. That incremental control compounds across game situations and across a season. Situational restraint is the final piece. The best quarterbacks in the league are as much managers as playmakers. Love is learning that fourth quarter slants into double coverage aren't always how you demonstrate leadership. Instead, he's mastered when to aggressively chase a big turn and when to shepherd a possession. That shows maturity, and it protects a team that can win with defense and the running game. It's not glamorous, but it's championship adjacent. Now look at the surrounding cast and scheme. Matt LaFleur's offense historically encourages vertical shots and aggressive play action. It's programmed into the offense's DNA, and yet you're seeing a game plan that tempers that inclination. More controlled sequencing, better cadence manipulation to create clean throwing windows, and a willingness to check to simpler completions when the front closes. LaFleur hasn't abandoned his identity. He's refined it to better suit a quarterback whose ceiling is sky high, but whose margin for error had to be respected. The defense deserves credit too. When you have a front that can generate pressure and a secondary that takes away big plays, the quarterback's job changes. Jordan Love doesn't have to win shootouts every week. He just needs to thread the needle and avoid self-inflicted wounds. Green Bay's front, especially now with an edge that demands constant attention, allows quarterbacks to play smarter. That synergy between offensive caution and defensive dominance turns those 9 games into more than a personal streak. It becomes a team project. Statistically, which is the language everyone loves, Love's recent profile stacks well against the NFL's best. In his 9-game stretch, he's logged just 4 turnover-worthy plays, per the PFF snapshot you referenced. Compare that to elite peers, Josh Allen with 3, Patrick Mahomes with 6, Aaron Rodgers with 4, and Love is in elite company. That's not about raw completion percentage or yards. It's about the plays the QB could have lost the game on but didn't. That's a different, deeper measure of quarterbacking. There's also an intangible narrative effect, confidence. For a while, Love's critics painted him as a high-variance guy who couldn't be trusted in tight spots. A streak like this rewrites that story. Opponents have to respect his arm, but they can no longer bank on forcing his hand into turnovers. It changes game planning across the board. Defensive coordinators must now account for both his upside and his newfound prudence. That's subtle, but powerful. He's no longer a quarterback with glaring weaknesses you can game plan for every week. Of course, the streak is not forever. Rodgers' record stands as a reminder that excellence can be interrupted by a single misread, a tipped ball, or a perfectly executed defensive stunt. Love has had his share of near misses, a couple plays where the ball was almost intercepted, and we should expect the odd mistake. The measure now, though, is pattern. Are mistakes isolated? Are they immediately corrected? So far, the answer is yes. That's what separates potential from production. What does this mean for the Packers' ceiling? It's enormous. When you have a quarterback who can take risks that generate explosive plays but does so without hemorrhaging turnovers, you've got the kind of engine that wins tight playoff games. If Green Bay sustains this balance, pressure-based defense, efficient run game, Love's smart aggression, they become very hard to beat in a 7-game series. The key will be durability, both of the offensive line and the supporting cast, and the ability to maintain rhythm late in the season when schematics tighten and legs tire. Finally, the cultural effect. Love's quiet streak changes media conversations overnight. Instead of will he, the room starts asking, how far can he go? That's dangerous in a good way. It raises expectations, draws tougher defensive schematics, and forces opponents to adjust. Love will have to answer tougher questions under brighter lights, and that will show whether the streak is sustainable or the beginning of something era-defining. So what's the takeaway? Jordan Love isn't Aaron Rodgers, and he shouldn't be. But he's borrowing the best parts of Rodgers' script. Elite decision-making in key moments, minus the stylistic conservatism. He's a quarterback who can throw you and protect you in the same drive. 9 games, 226 passes, 4 turnovers deemed turnover-worthy in the last stretch. That's not luck. It's a process. It's coaching. It's maturation. It's the kind of quiet, steady revolution that silences haters by refusing to make headlines for the wrong reasons. If you want a short line to carry into your next argument, Jordan Love still takes chances. That's his green light. But now he's picking the right times to do it. And for a team that wants to win in January, that makes all the difference. You've heard the old takes. Jordan Love is a Brett Favre flicker with too many risky throws. That narrative, it's getting buried. Quietly, efficiently, and with interceptions nowhere in sight. Here's the deal. Love has now gone 9 regular season games without an interception. That's 226 consecutive pass attempts without a pick. For context, that's not Aaron Rodgers territory yet. His record sits at 402, but it's a huge shift from the turnover-prone snaps people pointed to last season. Love used to be all big play vibes and turnover risk. Now he's balancing aggression with restraint. Why it matters. Turnovers swing games. A QB who can still create splash plays but won't hand you free points, that's championship-level value. Through 2 games this season, Love is 35 of 53 for 480 yards and 4 touchdowns, good for a 120.0 passer rating. Those aren't accident numbers. They're efficient, explosive production. Look closer. Love still takes shots. He's not a calculator. Against the Lions, he put 2 throws in jeopardy, one nearly picked, another called back by penalty. But that's not a trend. It's a blip. Pro Football Focus says Love has had just 4 turnover-worthy plays in his past 9 games. For perspective, Josh Allen had 3, Patrick Mahomes had 6, and even Aaron Rodgers had 4 in the same span. Love is now living in elite company for ball protection while keeping the big play juice. So what changed? A few things. First, he's learning situational intelligence, throwing it away instead of forcing into traffic, taking the safer throw when windows tighten. Second, Matt LaFleur's offense still asks him to be aggressive, but the decision-making has sharpened. And third, the supporting cast and offensive line are settling, giving Love cleaner pockets and clearer reads. The result? Defenses can't just sell out to stop the deep ball anymore, because Love won't beat you with turnovers. He'll take calculated risks, hit explosive completions, and then step out of danger. That makes the Packers harder to scheme against and more consistent week to week. Is he perfect? No. He'll always have Favre-ish flashes, and sometimes Favre wins you games with those flashes. But the narrative that Love is a liability is outdated. 9 games, 226 passes, 4 turnover-worthy plays. That's evidence, not hype. Bottom line, Jordan Love is evolving. He's blending daring with discipline, and in the process, silencing a lot of critics who wrote him off too early. If he keeps this trajectory, aggressive but careful, the Packers suddenly have a top-tier quarterback capable of carrying them deep. What do you think? Is Love the real deal now, or will the interceptions make a comeback? Drop your take below, like if you respect the growth, and subscribe to catch the next chapter.